So let's go back here. Maximize. So it should be running. All right. So what we did last time, I guess I'll use the file manager to look at this. I did it. Double clicking is an old habit. Now, can I make that search size? No, that's for searching for files. I'm just wondering if I can, is that the zoom? That's a little bit bigger. I'm trying to see if I can make this big enough for you guys to see. Is it visible? Sort of. Typically, I would not bother doing this, but we've got what we did last time is we made a folder called Django projects or something resembling that. And we made 2 projects, right? Projects are basically the unit for a Django website. And a project can have many apps. You can create multiple projects. You can make as many projects as you want. And the projects are isolated from each other. They're separate things. So the one we're going to do in class mostly is the tech review. And I did a tech review 2 because I already have a tech review up on GitHub. So I did it as tech review 2. All right, so this is the virtual environment, and there's a bunch of files in there that you need for the virtual environment. With luck, by the end of the quarter, I'll show you how to hook it to Apache so that you don't have to use the virtual environment. You could feed it to the world if you want. But this is good for development. It's a local environment. So in the Tech Review 2 project, and again, I'm looking at it this way, and you could look at it in the command line, right? Just as easily. But there's 2 parts. There's a Tech Review Tech app is what I call the app. Tech Review 2 is the project again. I'm going to just show you a couple of files and folders in there. All right, so we're going to have a settings pie, which we're going to look at today, a URLs pie, which we're going to look at today. We're not going to look at WSGI pie. This is actually the file that you would edit to hook it to Apache, the WSGI pie.
That's one later.
That's one later, yeah. If you want to hook it to Apache, you would edit this. You also have to edit Apache a little. So those are that. The pie catch you don't have to worry about. So I'm going to go back, and then the tech app, this has things like the admin pie, apps pie, which we'll mostly ignore, init pie, which is just you have to have that there for something Python requires it for if you're going to access the modules inside of it. Models pie, which is where we'll build our database model. Test pie, which is basically for writing tests and running them. We'll do that some. And views, which are where you write most of your code that does stuff. All right, so when we did those lines, those command lines, it created all these things for us. So a couple of other things I'm going to show you. We should have, and I need to scroll down to get to it. If you click the little box with the 9 dots, it opens up all of your available apps. These are the frequent apps, but if you do all, it will show you, there's 2 pages here. There's this page, and then if you do the second page, you will have Visual Studio Code. This is something you probably would want to download on your Windows machine if you don't have it already too. It's free, it's lightweight. You can do all this stuff in Visual Studio, but Visual Studio Code is in a way nicer. It's lighter weight, it's free for everybody. It works on Linux, it works on Macs, it works on everything. So I'm going to open Visual Studio Code. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the project through it. And then I will talk a little bit about the database that we have, and then we'll talk about putting what you have so far onto GitHub. So I'm going to make this a lot bigger when one of the things I know is you can make Visual Studio Code much bigger. Is it under View? Appearance. Zoom in. I want to zoom in. Oh, so Control plus equal. Need the equal sign. Control plus equal. There it is.
Just doing just the two keys.
Is that big enough? I'm going to maximize. Is that big enough for the back? So this is just telling you about that. What I'm going to do here is File, Open Folder, and it will give us that little file thing. We want to go to Home. Wish I could make this bigger. Django Projects. And I'm going to focus on Tech Review 2 because that's what we're going to be doing in class. And when I do that, I'll do OK. It gives me a view of the thing. So there's Tech Review 2. There's Tech App. If I open up Tech App, I can see all of these different files in here. And I can also see the ones like Manage Pi and Tech Review that are in the project level, because we'll have to mess with them once in a while too. So did you guys get that? So we have to get your focus. So go to Django Projects. And then Tech Review. And then just do.
Depends on where we put it. Can you ever put Django there? Then Tech Review 2. And then open it. Right. There you go.
Yeah, so actually he had it. So we have
Pretty much works the same as the directions, I think.
Anyone else need help with that?
now, just like
All right. So let's look at the document. So did you get the
so it's transparent.
Yeah, you just don't get it. If you want to do that, you'll need to go to the advanced lighting basis migrations.
Oh, this is your first time reading the code? Oh, it's really great.
Yeah. Should be the same.
You have the Bluetooth open or? No, you have to have a virtual machine and be. And I thought you had. Yes, you have to have a VMware active and then go into Bluetooth. And that's where everything is active. Yeah, you can't do this stuff with your computer. Yeah.
All right.
Ask Steve.
What is this?
You have to have VMware, right?
No.
Really?
I mean, if you set it up on your laptop, you don't need it.
But you do need to have a Bluetooth, right?
No.
Okay.
It works just fine on Windows.
Okay.
It works just fine on a Mac.
Okay, I'm not familiar. He's got a problem.
So do you have VS Code?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Not that one.
I would just use.
Oh, no, that's
the language getting into.
so let's find VS Code.
Take the one class. Buy the book. It's $60. It's worth it. And you take $200. Take certification.
All right, so then let's just do
And then you go
file
back to their
folder.
number. I'll show you. You go. It's like I said.
So where did you put your micro project?
Sprinkles money, right?
And you've got micro. It might be just.
I shouldn't use my book, but links for those Nicole Bay want to take over.
Yeah. You can always add it.
So I still live on the I bought a book. It's called
So I think what we need to do in just a minute is we'll install the start new project. Did you start it?
There's
Well, that's actually though from the other class. Oh, okay. Give me a second and I'll help you set that up. So in this video, we have dead spots, as you might notice. I will help everybody here in a moment that has problems. All right, so I'm going to just do, like views.py, just to open it, just so that there's the code window. There's a couple of things I want to check. So I need to select a Python interpreter, and I want to do that. So let's see where I want to do that at. Well, that's where it should. Oh, you know what?
It's not. You can't quite see it.
Yeah, it's because I'm too big. Right. So we need to choose down here. There's a Python extension loading. Mine, I don't know why it's taking so long to load. We want Python 3.6.
Mine's been loading for 5 minutes.
Why is it taking a while to load? That was.
She doesn't have that dialog box.
Linter, silent.
Well, she has. You've already loaded it. Except that you do not want Python 2.6.
Oh my
I
god.
just have a little bit like we're not doing it. You know, 100,000.
You know why it's loading? I probably need to close that. Did that help? We want Python 3.6 up here. And I'm okay now. You got Python 3.6.
I mean, I had the same error that you now have.
That linter isn't installed. It doesn't matter if linter's installed.
Okay.
You can install it or not as you want. What linter does is it gives you some additional troubleshooting tools. Let's just disable it for right now.
You don't need to install that. That's the level.
Everybody get to 3.6. So select Python interpreter. 3.6. And then you can disable Python link unless you want to.
So you need to either
I can
redo it or lock it.
And you're okay.
She didn't call it.
On Windows, it doesn't give you a choice. It just goes to the
So
right
she has.
place.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have one check reviews.
Otherwise, it's gonna come back.
So I would do it with Steve, but I don't know how to do it. It's called refactoring. And it's not just by, you just do it command line. It's more involved, and we just need Steve over here. No, just at first show them what you do, your names are, see what's gonna be a problem. But I don't know. In Eclipse, refactoring, there's a couple, you do a right click and job and boom, takes care of it. This, I don't know how to do. So, and because it's actually done outside, right? Because when you do it with Django and Python, Linux commands. So you have to have Steve review this.
Don't do the DMD. We have to run one at a time. You can't just copy.
Linux result in running in virtual machine, but then it said install this. So I said I could install
Do it. So,
Yeah.
No, I would just sketch it. You can install it if you want, but then it's gonna have to go to just well, all it does is it gives you some additional tools. It doesn't matter much in terms of actual behavior. Are you getting? Yes. So wherever your virtual environment is, it'll come around in a minute.
Is the video and announcements?
No, the video is in, if you click on in the syllabus on videos. So, all right, the other thing I would do in here, just to set up this environment, this is taking much longer than I meant. I would add a terminal. I would just do a new terminal. And what you have down here is you have a bash terminal, and then you have the code here. So basically you have your directory of files over here, you have your code editor here, and you have your terminal down here. That's a really nice setup for this. This works on Windows too. It's just that you'll have PowerShell in here instead of bash. Because there's a lot of things that we're going to have to go to the terminal for, so it's nice to have it right at hand.
How do you get to that? She doesn't have the.
Click on terminal. Terminal.
I don't have tech reviews too.
I think we just did. We have tech reviews.
Yeah.
It's fine if it doesn't.
So basically call it PowerShell.
It doesn't have that.
So I didn't have this.
Basically, we have the
I didn't have reviews.
you'll see what's happening.
I think you might still need to
You have one window, code, and you hit that 5 number. Here, wow, there it is. You hit that 5.
Okay,
Console doesn't say Windows, so it's really great.
so this is the environment we're going to be working in. Once we get there, hopefully it'll be a lot more stable and a lot less running around. All right, I want to show you a couple of other little things, and then we'll move forward. All right, so I'm going to minimize this for a minute. I'm going to, do I still have, I'm just going to open this again. I want to show you, I'm going to just do a plus, and it's really hard to see, but there's a PHP admin here. For this class, the PHP admin, PG admin will work, but I actually have a preferred one. But actually, other than setting up the databases in this, we do not need to, we will not need to look at this environment much in this class. I might do a couple of little things. The username here is Postgres, and the password is, what do you think?
Password.
Yes. All right, so mainly what we need to do in here for setup, which we don't necessarily have to do right now, but we will be doing very soon, is we're going to create a couple of databases. We're going to actually generate the tables and things from Python, but the database has to exist. And if you've never used Postgres, Postgres is a open source relational database. It's very powerful. It's a really good product. It's been around, it's much older than MySQL, but it's only just now started coming into its own for popularity. Questions before so let's leave it there because we'll come back to it in a minute. Did everybody find it? There's a little link to it up here. For those in the SQL class, I found the code to change it to the view I prefer. No, it's not in Google. Just do it's don't do it Google. Just click on it. Again, the user is Postgres, and the password is password. We'll come back to that. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a link to GitHub. And my GitHub is just github.com/spconger. We went to, now there's a lot of things you can get here. As I said, let's make it big again. I don't know why it doesn't retain its zoom. There's some database schema. None of them apply to this class. If you go to repositories, there are the reading app and tech review Django, which is what we're going to do in class, right? We're going to basically, it'll be our sample database. There's also a project manager that I made. So I've made these three. I actually made a lot of others that were kind of failed attempts, but these three are things that I've been working on. I may add more as I work on them. I've been doing Django all over the place to try to make sure I knew what I was doing when I did this. So there are those as samples for you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign in.
Samples to do what?
What?
Samples to do what?
So these are samples. All right, let's go back. So when you want to, when you're working on Django and you need a sample for something, so you could go like to the views thing and there's a sample of all the code. So there are different kinds of all these different functions that are to create different views. All right, so it gives you examples of how you, if you need an example. And they're all very much the same. I mean, one of the things about Python, which is good and bad, is that you might notice that most of these are identical except for the, you know, you change the names to protect the innocent or whatever. You just change a few names. They're pretty easy. Now you can do a whole lot more. These are all fairly simple, but we'll, you know, this gives some examples of some things that we'll be doing. The same is true of the others, and in fact, if we go back to tech review, this is exactly what we're going to be doing in class. Now, what we do in class may differ from this a little bit. We may make different decisions as we talk about it. But if you do the tech reviews, and then you do reviews, you'll see, it has all of these different things, and there's the views and the URLs and the models. So there's samples, all the code that we're going to do in class is already there. Plus, I'm going to post it again under Tech Review 2 as we do it in class. All right, so you'll have lots of examples. And again, examples are useful because a lot of them you can pretty close to cut and paste them and then just change the names. It's not necessarily the best way to learn it, but it's all right. So what I was going to do, and this is partially to show you, this would be the very first assignment. And if you're not there yet, I will spend some time when I can to catch people up. So I'm going back just to here, I guess. I'm going to sign in. This is assuming I can remember. So I'm going to sign in. And if you don't have an account at GitHub, they're free. They're free as long as your accounts are public. As a student, if you have an EDU, I haven't applied in this way, but as a student, you can have a few that are private if you want. Public means that literally anyone in the world can look at it, just to know. So if you have an idea that's going to make you millions of dollars, don't put it in a public account. GitHub is really good, not just for storing code. Employers, a lot, particularly in the tech field, if you're going into any kind of programming field, often will look at your GitHub first before they talk for an interview. I was actually offered an interview at Amazon because of my GitHub. I didn't go because I don't want to work at Amazon. Although the money is tempting. And I don't know how far I would have got with the interview either. Your GitHub is a really good thing to have when you're going out looking for work. And it's also a place where you can, in the professional world, it's where code versioning tends to happen. So it's where multiple people can work on the same piece of code, and it will keep track of who posted what and what version it is. And you can roll back commits and things if you need to. If somebody commits something that's totally disastrous, it's actually a very useful field. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new repository, and I'm going to call it Tech Review 2. All right, and I will initialize with the README, although I'm not sure I'm going to put anything in the README right now. I'm going to create the repository. I think now I am going to explore how to do this directly from VS Code because it does have Git built into it. I just haven't played with it enough to tell you how to do it. I know how to do it in Visual Studio, but I haven't figured out how to do it in VS Code. But if you don't, you can always just say upload files, go to the file manager. I'm going to go back to Tech Review 2, just the outer folder. I'm just going to drag it. Yeah. And it will do all of that. And one of the things you can do with your commits if you want is you could name them like after assignments. The commit that I have right now, which is just the setup, it's just the structure, is essentially the first assignment. Or you can give it a more meaningful commit if you want. So I just typed in assignment 1. I'm just going to commit the changes. And I will commit what we do every day in class. I may also put some stuff in the blog to just highlight it. Now, so I have Tech Review 2. When I open that, I have the settings and did I go with, I should have done it another level up, I guess. Let's go back to here. Oh, not there.
Is this the same as the Python Club? I'm not the Python Club. Yeah, the Python Club.
So the Python Club is the assignments.
Okay.
The tech review is my samples in class.
Oh.
And
And we should make a tech review.
yeah, and I should have done this folder, not the other one. So I'm going to upload files, and I'm going to upload from there. Because you want to do it from the outermost folder.
Mine got paused on 11 as well.
Yeah, well, is that all that, there's more than that, isn't there?
Yeah, it's 11 to 14.
So it doesn't necessarily put in some of the blank files, which is they'll come as you put code in it. So I'm going to call this one second commit assignment 1. You can call them whatever you want. Generally, it doesn't matter what you call them because I know what I'm looking for when I go into GitHub to look. So this takes a little longer because I actually downloaded the whole thing.
You might walk me through that process.
Sure. Tell you what. Did edit? Cancel. Trying to think of where to go to delete this. There is also in the, I'll show you in a second. What? Yeah, I want the folder, the outermost folder for the project.
So the one underneath Django project.
Yes.
Okay. So underneath there's a tech review too, and actually should be tech reviews.
Yeah, the outermost folder of it. Don't want a new, it might be over here.
And then you want us to just link to the repo for the assignment? Or?
Yes, that's
Okay.
all I have to do. All you have to do. I don't want public profile. That's settings. Sign out, stars, your profile. I'm trying to delete this repository so I can remake it. You guys remember how to delete?
How to delete what now? For a repository?
Oh, delete the whole thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to, yeah, you have to select the repository and it's under settings for the repository and it'll be at the very bottom.
Thought I did that.
Oh, no, settings on the left,
Yeah. On the top.
Right.
Here.
Right, yeah, there you go. At the very bottom.
I knew I deleted them. I don't delete them very often, but
Yeah, dangerous zone.
delete this repository, and it's tech review 2. All right, so I just deleted the project. All right, so let's do it again. I'll add it again. So once you've signed in, it's really just a plus new repository. All right, I'm going to call it again tech review 2. Except just for safety, I'm going to spell out 2 instead of put a number 2 there. All right, it's public. I'm going to initialize with a README, and I'm going to create the repository. Okay. So once you're signed in, you can do upload files, right? You created a thing, you can upload files. So I went to the file manager, and I want to find the outermost folder. So inside here, there's a Tech Review 2 also, but I want, and that's what I did the first time, but I want the outermost folder of that, and I'm going to drag that in. Okay, and of the 3 files that it's not uploading, they're empty. They're like the INI Pi and other things are okay. You might have to add them to make it work, but so I am going to, that's fine. I've got all of these. I just need to commit. And again, you can use whatever kind of commit makes sense to you. You know, you could do something like commit assignment, assign, or something more meaningful.
What's that?
All right, so I'm doing it again. Something that I also have done in some of the others is in my README, I describe each commit. You don't have to do that, but I do that. Now, up here, there's the link, right? So I am going to go, I have this open. I'm going to go a couple of things. First, I'm going to go down to, I want settings, wherever that is. I think it's over here. Yeah, let's go home. I'm going to try to show the student view, because otherwise I don't have any way to submit assignments. So theoretically, this is student view. I'm going to go to assignments. I'm going to do assignment 1, submit assignment. And notice there's text entry, website URL. Just paste the URL, and then I will submit the assignment. Now, even though the URL will always be the same, I would really like you to submit it each assignment, just because of the way Canvas works, right? And then it'll also let me know for sure that you have new commits, and then I can look at it. I mean, you could, it'll always go to the same place, but I can, it just lets me know that you turned it in. And Canvas works really well with GitHub. I do have to click on it to go to an external link, but it does show me the initial page. It just won't let me scroll through it. And then I can click on it and go there, and it works fairly nicely. So this is how I would prefer you turn in your assignments. There are a lot of files. This is true of a lot of web frameworks. There are a lot of files involved. And it's really hard to upload them all the other way. And I really hate zip files. Every zip file I have to download, open, look through it, and then it just takes me a lot longer to grade them. Okay. Is that part clear? If anyone needs help with these, I will do. Yeah. Couldn't paste it? Yeah, we could take a quick break, and then we'll do the next part, which is set up the database. It might not let
I
you.
don't think it doesn't work between them. You can just, hold on, you have GitHub right there, so just,
paste outside of the.
and then if you, you had to do it in there. So you can just take the link right from there.
I don't know if it'll let you copy and paste outside the virtual machine.
Yeah, it won't. Oh, that works, I guess. Aaron,
You do need a
like,
password.
you
You remember what? So you have to set
No,
up
you
a
don't. No, you
password.
don't.
I would suggest just password.
Oh, It's week long.
You need a pass.
On
Yeah.
video game speed.
All right, so let's set up.
They usually make like $1 million for every time they do it. And they do
Let's
it
just
twice
see.
a
So we have.
No, that would just be your thing.
You have the Postgres. You have all of that set up. Right.
My friend,
And, well, I think the
Yeah,
Postgres
break
is set up.
should I still do game work?
Follow the directions for Django.
And so,
But
but what was really bad is we went from cocaine to crack cocaine.
Oh,
On the
okay.
second level, they have the
You know where you set them up?
Xbox
My club
section
button.
and Fortnite. Oh my goodness.
My club. That's the environment. Do you have anything inside the environment? Yes. Groups. All right. So let's do.
But things that she really wants to play is it's called walking or hanging zombies game. But yeah, sometimes I like watching Twitch and stuff when I'm there, you know. But,
Yeah, no, it's really cool. Yeah, I'll send it to you once I get back.
yeah, because the game works for $7 an hour, you can play on an Xbox or a PlayStation or a Switch or even a computer. And that's
That
a
has
pretty
the
good deal.
library.
I don't think you set it up at home. Yeah. You know, I mean, think about it. Consoles, $200. TVs, $200. Additional accessories.
You have like the beginnings of a project there.
The chair
My
itself.
club site.
And then, you know, go to
Let's
Game Works
try.
downtown. Not with the kid though, because he'll be.
Python.
Okay. Well, he still wants free stuff. Is check out their chairs on the second floor downtown, and you'll see there's
so-
different things. Like you want just to do that with your
What's it called? The Aptus Club.
It is. You know that if you go to Fry's Electronics and Renton, go in their gaming section, sit in those chairs. They're not. They are expensive. They are worth it. So they really are good for your back, and they really.
I've seen like similar to that, you know.
But the
Let's
thing is, all that is set up.
see.
And it's like, or if you go somewhere else, someone's already got the party set up.
I think we need to
Never be
activate
the
the
host.
environment. Well, that's okay. I guess it shouldn't be this hard, but
See you close.
yeah. We'll set it up. What we might do is actually just start it the Django part over.
Oh, so that's not the. That's settings. So this is what you want. So you really want. Control use.
For my default, after I put the password in,
Just do default. And next. And then it's going to next, and then it'll install. All right. Right, so you just need to add it if you want to follow it. But you have to do it on the front. So you have tech reviews. It doesn't have to be named Tech Review 2.
Oh, okay. So it's not.
Yeah, you've got it all there.
Well, no, I didn't want to go that.
It's fine that it isn't labeled 2.
This is the one I have.
Yeah, that's the one you have.
Okay. Doesn't have to be Tech Review.
No. Mine's Tech Review 2 because I have one already called Tech Review. The other thing is, Tech Review is not what I want you to turn in. I want you to turn in Python Club. Remember, Python Club is the one that we will do for the assignments. This is the one for that. If I go to File, Open Folder, and we go to Python Club, and we do OK, this one will have, again, it has all the same kinds of files, but it's for the Python Club. The assignments will be for the Python Club. The ones I do in class with you will be the Tech Review. Very similar kinds of things, but a little bit different in some things. So the Python Club for the assignments you turn in, the other for examples. And you can switch between them by just changing open folder and which folder you're in.
Is it break over or is it?
I don't know. These questions came up.
Oh, okay. It's still on break. I think it's still on break.
Okay.
Yeah, still have 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'll give it 5 more minutes. Yeah.
So I've installed.
Okay. Well, sometimes it doesn't come out properly.
It's
The only thing we're going to do after break, we're going to
it still has to open in Japan. Unlike one day. Crazy. Well, what should it be? AARON.LEWIS@seattlecentral.edu. Trying to email you the first assignment of the. Yeah, okay. You know the practice sequence?
Sometimes, I mean, I have.
Yeah, I've been there, so. Yeah, that's basically what it is. I guess I won't send it to you. It's just the final exam practice from last class. Do you need help for this? I do, but I got a friend. I'm going to Issaquah office. Oh, this is, they're doing a review for basically Java 1 class.
Okay.
Apparently, I didn't learn anything.
He's taking Java 2,
Oh.
but not Stanley's Java 2. The Sam building Java 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He didn't want attendance. Stuff that
He didn't want to.
Yeah.
Hate to say I told you so.
I came in late and I already lost one.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
It's just like it's like UW stuff.
It's in a different building. It's the same building.
Oh, wow.
And his name's Francois, right?
No, it's a, yeah, I'm all right. No, that's the, head of the department.
Yeah, it would be worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
ITC does not equal CSC. You're saying, oh, Python, oh, it was bad. Or the master. Please,
So what it sounded like is you need to go over.
Yeah, understandable.
Thing.
Especially when you have to wait so long. I mean, running around doing.
There is a bit of that. Yeah.
I noticed that the more you sleep, the more you want to sleep.
That's true. I never feel more sound asleep than the minute before I have to get up. So how are we doing? I will try to build in some time to catch everyone up. But actually, we don't have a lot that I'm going to cover new today, but some. Because I kind of figured it would be chaotic. Once the environment is set up, once we're to this, I think we're pretty set to go, right? The rest of the stuff will be a whole lot more straightforward. It'll be more just programming. I mean, not that programming doesn't have issues, but we'll get it set up. So, quick questions before we get going. There's still a couple people out.
You like to, for your data changes, you like to make sure you always say what you did.
So, let me go back to here. When I do, now I'm not going to be strict about you guys doing this, but let's go back. So let's say repositories. Let's do like this tech review Django, which is what the samples are. What I did, I described each commit. And that's a wonderful thing to do, but you don't have to. I'm not going to make that as part of the assignment. But I did, sometimes I call and sometimes I don't. I could probably clean this document up. But it's, you know, I just described what I did with each commit. I think that's good as a practice. I'm not going to necessarily make you do that. But that's what my README document does. It could do other things as well. And I've done that for each of these. Okay, actually I do want to be here real quickly at the PHP admin. Are we ready? Is everyone back? Are you guys still with me? This feels really chaotic, but it'll get better. You guys are very patient. Thank you. So I'm going to do a couple of things. We're going to create two databases. I'll create the one for the sample, and we're going to create the one for the Python club. We'll do both right now. Once we've done that, we don't ever have to look back here if we don't want to. I probably will to show you what the effects of some of the Python is. The Python will create tables. It will populate the tables. You will be reading from those tables. They'll all be stored in Postgres. But you can do it all from the Python side of things, right? So you don't necessarily have to come back here. What else was I going to say? We're going to use Postgres because it's a much more powerful database. By default, if you do nothing at all, your database is SQLite. Does anybody ever use SQLite? Okay. SQLite is a real lightweight relational database. It doesn't support the whole relational model. It is what your iPhone or your Android phone uses to store data locally. So if you do app programming for phones, SQLite is the local storage. Typically, it offloads it again to some website somewhere, some other database. But on the local storage, it's usually SQLite. It's that small. It's that compact, right? That it works well on a phone. So from here, I'm going to just click Create Database. Now, if you don't see Create Database, let me go back. Document expired. That's weird. Anyway, when you do, let's just bring up PHP admin again. So here, there's a link for it. On Windows, you would need to load it, right? It'll be in your program files. So here, when I click on the server, so this is just a folder for servers. Then there's server, and then Postgres is your system database that you really shouldn't mess with. I mean, it literally is a database for all the meta information about the database. And that's the only database you have. You have lots of different schemas, but public is the default, and that's what we're going to do. I could spend hours talking about this, but because it's not that relevant, I won't. I'm just going to do create a database. For the tech review, let's just call it tech review DB. I do like to name it a little bit different than, say, the project or the the folder, because you should never name any two things exactly the same. If you do, it'll get confused eventually. Things will fall apart, go bad. Python will get confused as to what you're doing. Never name two things the same thing. All right, so we can use template 0 or template 1. It doesn't matter. Let's use template 1. We don't have to worry about any of those other things. We can just do create. I noticed it created a database for us, and we can leave it empty because, as I said, Python will populate it when we work on our model. So I'm also going to click Create Database again, and we'll do the Python Club DB. We'll just call it that. The naming convention in Postgres, for whatever reason, is all lowercase. You don't have to, but even if you raise characters, it'll present it as all lowercase. So I'm going to just create that. And now we have our two databases. We have the one for Python Club and the one for Tech Review. Now, the owner of these databases, this matters a little bit, is Postgres. Remember when we first signed into the server, Postgres was the user? Postgres is the admin user in Postgres. Typically, you should not use it. You should probably disable it, but we're going to let it be. Because Postgres has ownership and complete control. We need that. We need a user with control over the database. Better practice would probably be to create a user for that, but we'll just go with Postgres. Questions on that? So we have the databases. The one thing that Python won't do for you is create the database. It'll populate it, it'll create the tables, it'll do all that, but it won't do the actual create database. Okay, that's all we need to do here. But everybody okay with that? So I'm going to go back to here. Actually, that's not where I want to go. I want to go to here. There's a couple more things that I want to do real quickly. I should check and see what the assignment actually says to do. I'm pretty sure we want to set up settings. Let me look at the assignment. Assignment 2. I broke these up to pretty small things. The other thing I'm not sure I ever said, all of our assignments are kind of building one app, right? All of the assignments are additive. I tried to break them into small chunks, but they're all building one thing. Does that make sense? So they're not each separate projects. They're not separate apps. So we did Python Club. I changed it to Python Club DB. We want to configure the settings, and we're going to edit the URL, and then we'll migrate the databases. Okay, that sounds good. I know what I'm doing now. Okay, so let's go back. So there is a settings folder, and it's at the Tech Review. It's at the project side. So on mine, so Tech App is our app. This is the project. Inside the project, there's a settings. There's a couple of things we need to do in the settings. So I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to, for right now, kind of lower that. So it gives you a little bit of information. It imports OS. A lot of this you can just sort of ignore, but there's a couple of places where we need to make changes. One change is we need to register our app. All right. So for this one, because I'm in the Tech Review, these projects are separate from each other, right? But each project can have multiple apps. All I have to do is, in quotes, say Tech App. Now, if you named it Tech or Review, you want to name it whatever your app is named, right? You don't want to write Tech App just because I did. A lot of you had different.
Oh, would that be the same as the name of this?
Yes, it's the same as the folder name, this folder name, whatever that folder name is. I'm going to put a comma after it, yeah. technically these are tuples.
I know.
Tuples, they put commas after all of them, even the last one. So these are all things that are being in here, like the admin. Well, we'll talk about it a little bit. We'll actually pull up the admin maybe next class. Authorization, this is the whole structure for logins and logouts and authentication, users, all of that. Content types basically gives you that. Session management, which I'm not going to go into a lot, but could be important if you get a really big database. Different kinds of messages. Static files being things like your CSS file. Right? There could be other static files too, files that aren't part of the DINE. Now, so tech app, that's actually all we have to do there. When you do the Python one, you'll have to go into the settings and do that there, and just make it Python Club, and Club maybe if that's your app name. So one of the other things we have to do is the database. Notice that the database default is SQLite. We want, let's see if I can do this right. I think it's, is it psycho 2 underscore Postgres. You know, here's a quick way to do this, which is a cheat, but I'm going to go back to here to Django, tech reviews, settings. So that's templates, but we want default database. Oh, it's Postgres SQL and then the Psycho. So I am going to copy this. You can do this too. I'll linger for a while on it too. So I'm cheating on this, but this is a one-time thing. So in the databases, I'm going to, and then I'll leave it here for a while. Yeah, the indent here is screwed up. I'm just making sure everything closes and is correct. There are dangers in copying, right? For one thing, our database is a Tech Review DB. Without the DS, right? I could look. Tech Review DB. It has to match. One of the things that will drive you insane is everything has to match. And it has to match in a dozen different places, which will drive you crazy. So the engine is Django, DB backends, Postgres, PSY, COPG2. Couple of things about that. One, it'll give you a warning. Two, it may say it's not there. But get rid of the SQLite. I think it's because you just didn't. Maybe repaste over it, highlight it on, leave it, and repaste over it. Including the name. Is the name?
Yeah, the name is
So what you have is the engine. And just as a side, Python Django will work with MySQL. It'll work with Postgres. It will work with Mongo if you want to do a non-relational database. It can be made to work with SQL Server as well. Yeah.
Where did you copy that?
I copied it from the Tech Review repository on GitHub. And then in it, So in it, I went to tech reviews settings.py. But I'll leave it here if you want to just type it. This is something that I always find a little hard to type in. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I was looking.
So local host is what it is if it is local and a single standalone. If it's on the cloud, which is actually probably more typical, if it's elsewhere on the network, you would have to provide a more meaningful path to it. Local host is just for the standalone. Port, we're going by the default port. It seems like you have extra. Oh, that's just your picture.
Oh.
So, do we have that? There's a couple of other little changes we'll need to make in the settings file later. But if you want to go through, there's lots of.
Do you just say save or no?
You do have to save it. I'm going to do file save. If you don't save these, they don't last, yeah. Although it will, if you try to close out, it'll say, do you want to save? That's warning. So are we okay with that? Do you need a minute more?
I think people are still getting it down.
Okay.
One more.
And again, if you don't get it, you can always go and copy it. So as I said, when we run this, we'll probably get a warning on this, and it may not exist, and if that's the case, we'll have to install it. I don't remember in this virtual environment if it's already been installed or not. We can kind of tell. Are you guys ready? Need a minute? Ready? Okay. So down here in the terminal, I'm going to do Python 3 manage pi, and I'm going to say migrate. This should throw errors if Postgres isn't installed. So no module named Django. Actually, I'm curious. Do I still have? That's 3.6. What does it mean, no model named Django? Because my virtual environment may not be activated right now.
Right, you have to, I think, when you re-log in, you have to do that every time.
Shouldn't have to, but I will. I'm going to go back a couple of directories. All right, so I am going to, VNV is the virtual. So I think if I do source VEND bin activate. Now, oh, you know why? My slashes are the wrong way because I've been doing DOS. Okay, now I should be able to go. The way you know that you're, I wish I could get this up higher for you. The way you know that it's been activated is you have VNV or whatever you named your virtual environment is going to be here in parentheses in front of the prompt. You shouldn't have to do that every time, but if we do, we'll get good at it, I guess. So now I can do Python 3. Oh, except I need to switch CD tech review 2. And here's whatever your name of your folder is. CD is change directory. So CD is change directory. If you do ls, it'll show you that's list files. So it'll show you the list of what's there. One of the things that's there, which we're going to spend a lot of time using, is manage pi. Manage pi is for almost all the commands. You have to say Python 3 manage pi in the command. So I know this is way down there. I don't know how to lift this up. I really wish those TVs were there. So a couple of things that I did, which I can help you with. One is I went back CD2 space 2 dots. Takes you back a directory, right? It's like going backwards a directory. And then I did an ls just to see where I was. And then source venv, if that's what you named your virtual environment folder, /bin/activate, and that activates the virtual environment. And again, it shouldn't have to do that every time, but if we do, we do. Right, and then first one I did the slashes the wrong way. I work between Windows and Linux a lot, and I've worked on Windows a lot longer than Linux, so I tend to do my slashes the wrong way. All right, so then I switched to the folder for a project, CD tech review, so change directory. You can tell down here I'm in projects tech review. I did an ls just to confirm. And then I did, I haven't done anything there. I'm just doing that folder. What I wanted to do at the beginning is Python 3 manage pi migrate. All right, so I think that the error is that it doesn't have the psycho-PG prompt. See, I kind of expected that, actually. So we want to install it. I'm just looking to see if it has the...
No, so,
Before you do this, let me see if it works.
And then, yeah, and then you Python 3 space manage.py.
Yes.
When you do pip install.
Yes, I do.
Actually,
There we go. So if you do pip install pycopg2, it will install
that one.
that. And then the migration work.
Maybe that wasn't the right spot.
This is something that I've found happens quite a bit.
Yeah, did you activate the button?
Is I keep having to add a little bit, every once in a while I have to add things. So I wish as I said, so what I did is pip install pycopg2.
So then it should be
and it will install that part. So Linux is a weird to get used to, but on the other hand, a lot of things are fairly easy. You don't even have to know where these things are. You just say pip install or sudo apt get install, and it just gets it. Who knows where it's from, but it just goes and gets it.
Yeah. Right there.
You don't have to say if it's a Windows 10 or 16-bit or everything else.
Yeah.
That does not seem right.
No, that means that
That's because you're not in virtual machine.
What do you mean?
You're not in the virtual machine. Let's do.
Remember when you're changing the database?
I can't wait.
No, you didn't say that. So then Control S.
Well, that's what I feel like Kara. Kara, you know, he says, no, you don't learn like, like right.
Yeah, you don't need to worry
Now,
about that.
it's not, caveat. Say,
Make
make
sure
sure
you're
you're
running
running where it's not catastrophic.
try activating the.
So that's the thing,
source,
like,
then
you always do fail, but it's
slash
like,
bin,
yeah,
slash
like,
activate.
don't fail and lose an arm. You gotta try
Right source.
You lose your entire life.
Space.
That's
VE.
what I do. You guys, you guys are doing this for a while. No money.
It should be there. I don't know why.
So instead of low money, it's no money, no
It's
money.
no, like, that's what I figured.
See, that's why I took that movie that came out, low money. Like,
PIN.
what's the matter? It should be called no money, no money, no money.
Forward slash.
No, I haven't.
Activate.
Well, we got laid off 2 years.
ATV. Okay. Now try.
Yeah, but that totally shouldn't work if you're in the correct directory. No, you don't need to be in that.
Go into Python, CD Python.
There's just source, then bin.
Python.
I'm sorry, I should.
I know, I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Here, I would actually check on that. You got the bin. And then you have that. So
Tried pip install Psycho PG2.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
the only thing I can think of is just tracing.
So some of this will work with Windows 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you said Ben, not Ben.
Oh, okay.
You misspelled it. That's what it is. So from here you can go to source space and then slash bin slash activate.
No, there's for those specialties.
I just retyped it again.
So
Or then, yeah.
my goal is just to migrate. I'll come around. We may have to. So it shouldn't. Is that an O? No. Python. No, it is. It's just my thing. Python 3. No cap on the Python. Everything is case sensitive. So manage .py, migrate. Now it's migrated. So what it did is it created all of this content to the database. We're going to do it again later when we create our own models. We'll migrate them to the database. This only works after you've done installed the Psycho PG2. Yeah. So what I did, the command was way up here. Looking for that's the install. Yeah, I probably could do history. That's probably a better idea.
So if you have alias, you use type H.
So what I did is this one, Python 3 manage Pi migrate.
Can I move it up?
If you can figure out how to move it up.
No, just
Oh, yeah, just give a lot of.
later.
So Python 3 manage Pi migrate. Real quickly, I'll show you what that did, and then I'll come help you do that. This is still setup stuff. It's not stuff we have to do a lot. I'm going to go. I'll be right back to this, but I just want to show you what it did in PG admin. If we go to tech review, I'm going to collapse those. And if we go to tables, see, it created a whole bunch of tables. These are all system tables. But it created a table for authorization group permissions, author permissions, authorization user, author user groups, author user permissions. So these are all system tables for the basically related to the session and the security permission stuff. Later, when we do our models, we'll also migrate those tables to the database. So,
I just see but he switched to Postgres. She ate that sometime. To this.
oh, it's in tech review. Actually, the open the tables.
Oh, okay. I mean, I only got some.
Because we haven't done it to the target. So I just wanted to show you what it did. You can actually pretty well ignore these because they'll work just transparently, right? When we do, towards the end of this project, we'll set up some logins and user permissions and things. They will be stored in these tables. Again, you can always go to the database and look at them, but from within Python, it's all fairly transparent. You don't have to look at the database. Yeah. You just need. So.
Before you have this class, you'd have to go through words.
Yeah.
Or take the JavaScript with those languages. I would throw, but it's not Python. To me, because you had Microsoft, you had Java, you had two classes. You had four, technically, you got two with Java, three with PHP, but it was just one Python. So that's where it must be that more than that. Just doing this is all you're doing.
Package install something. Yeah. So
I need to ask you.
yeah. Installed the Cyclopedia 2. And then that was the only way to manage that Pi migrate. And so you got that. And so you were
It's a dashboard. No, it's not. How much Sherlock from BBC?
You just type in history and see where you did.
So it goes like doesn't know it's not
Yeah. No, he simply misspelled that. Yeah. He forgot to check again.
but it's like, you've seen the trailer, right? Well, I know your son's seen it. So, well, no, there's things to just go bonkers. And he must have just feeling nuts and that stuff. Lang shows up, say, hey, it's me.
Yeah, he did.
It's like, the world,
I've been taking computers since I was like 9 or 10.
Well, remember,
Because
he had that.
when I was little, I wanted to be an author, so I spent a lot of time
So remember the first movie?
So, yeah, and then
Bigger.
so
I think he
it's,
had the same thing.
at this point, it's just muscle memory for me.
So when they didn't,
So
when they
it-
weren't
it-
there to let him out, he let him out.
What is your type?
Uh-oh. Where did it use?
Not really.
Do you wanna?
Unless I'm coding, not really. Like I could be sitting here. I can't type that fast, but I could be sitting here saying and typing what I want.
I know, are you having mistakes too? When you're talking, that's where it's conversation with you, right?
Well, Miss Mark.
Yeah, I mean,
Captain Mark's
like I said, it's muscle memory, so
I'm really big into it.
it's pretty easy to do.
For us, it's just, they have the right actors. Not her, but like, it's just.
Oh, that's true. I guess part of it, like I usually am able to catch my typos without even looking at what I'm doing. I just feel that I hit the wrong key and then I go to a backspace. Like I even did that when doing that exam just now. Although it's hard to keep your mouth down, because then once you make a mistake, you're just like, oh wait a moment, no, you can slow down. But yeah, no, I'm usually able to catch a typo like without even looking at it.
But there better be out.
Yeah. So did you run it? Actually, refresh it first. Click this little thing first. Yeah, so let's look at your.
Computer settings.
Yeah, I'm hoping it should.
Edit and redirect URLs.
Because
Because we migrated the database, but I don't know if we
I think it's gonna bother you.
URLs.
Maybe. I'm surprised you did it. They don't have a database called
Yeah, we didn't.
Joe Manuel, big giant experience.
Right, but this should be
He's
tech
definitely,
review.
but most part, that's light hair,
Yeah.
beard,
Yeah, we-
patch, or especially.
Yeah, so we did all
He would be perfect as DC captain.
So,
You know, because he's big, but he's kind of lean, which is kind of like the 70s TV show, Captain Marvel. But and him against The Rock, it's like, yes, done. I can do director. He'd be a Rock.
I don't know where it went.
Now Fox is like.
I think we started to change
I
it.
usually did it, but I don't understand.
You gotta have a star. You gotta have the Shi'ar Empire, Imperial.
Did you install the cycle feature?
Oh, the last step.
I did everything.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that.
To me,
Can it work?
Yeah. This was.
it's like a TV show. I'll look at that show.
I mean, you could do that, but I just watched what he did and then I just typed it out myself.
Oh, he's got.
Yeah. But
It's already there. It's there.
yeah, here's the thing. Actually, you should. What you do is go and follow him on yours. Because that's what I did. Because if you just do, if you go on www.google.com and then it's
So
it'll immediately bring up the schedule.
there's one other last thing, and I guess what I will do, like at the beginning of Wednesday, so if some of you want to come late, you can. The very first part of Wednesday, what I will do is I'll come through and help everyone catch up to this. So if you already are good and you don't want to watch me do that for a half hour, 45 minutes, maybe just come in like at, we start at 10, come in at 11, and we'll start new stuff. If you're not caught up, if you need to fix it or you need, you come in at 10 and we'll get it. I just want to get everybody set up. Once the setups are gone, as I said, the coding isn't so terrible. The video on this is going to have lots of dead spots, just to warn you. This is the very last thing I want to do for setup. And this is actually pretty much set up for assignment 2 now. So I am going to come back in here. I want to make a slight change. And again, this is just setting it up so we're ready to go. In the Tech Review 2 URLs. So one of the things that you need to do is for every view we do, we're going to have to set up a path to it. It's a relative path. It's not, this is URLs, and it's URLs under Tech Review, the project. But part of what we're going to do is we're going to redirect it to go to the app instead of that. And it tells you kind of how to do it right here, right? It says import the include function from Django URLs, add a URL to URL patterns that points to your app. And then that way inside of your app, you can put all of your URLs there and it will just go there to look for it. This is especially useful to do if you're going to have a project that has multiple apps. Ours is only going to have one, but it's still a useful thing to do. So it tells you what to do. We need to, under Django URLs, we also need to import include. So I just do a comma and then include. Right, so that allows us to import that. This is at the top of the URLs after the comments. And then here, I'm just going to do path. And in the quotes here, I'm just going to do the name of our app, which in my case is Tech App. If it's just Tech on yours, go with Tech. If it's whatever you named your app, right? For the Python Club, if you named it Club, this would be Club. And then I'm going to do include, and I'm going to do Tech App, and I think it needs to be quoted, maybe not. I think it does need to be quoted. Tech App dot URLs. And in quote, yes. Actually, it seems to work whether you add a comma at the end or not. You do have to have a comma between all the different paths. So what this does is it's saying at the project level, when you have a path, go look in the Tech App, right? Go look in the app for it. Now, we don't have, if you notice in the app, there isn't a URLs pie.
Yes.
So we're going to add a URLs pie. So I am going to right-click on Tech App, new file, and I'm just going to call it urls.py, all lowercase. So up here, this URLs pie has this, and this is just a blank one for right now. No, we don't want to copy and paste anything down. We'll add some stuff. Probably the one thing you might want to, this is the one line that you definitely need. So we could put it in there just so there's something. We need to import path. This took me, it is absurdly simple once you figure it out, but it took me forever to figure out.
When there's no comma or anything, I missed something.
What? So in the other URLs, there's only a comma because there's two values. I think that's where I'm going to leave it for the day. Because now we're all set up where we can actually start writing code to do things. But I wanted to go through this setup process, as chaotic as it is, because if you ever do this on your own, or you're ever doing it for a company, you may have to go through all this setup. And the setup is a bit complicated, but it's not terrible. Once you've done it a couple of times, it gets to be easier.
There's Visual Studio.
Yeah, I mean, there's it's a lot of web frameworks are kind of hard to set up initially, but once they're set up, they're okay. One of the drawbacks of Django is that a lot of people say it's easy to use, but it's hard to get it set up. One of the things I'll say real quickly, because we're about done here, is that there are a lot of folders and files here, right? And we're going to add folders and files. It's going to get really complicated over here figuring out. And everything that we do, we're going to have to probably write a view for it, put it in a URL. We're going to have to create, this isn't there yet, but we're going to have to create a template for it, which is the HTML file. And we may have to there may be a couple of other places. We're going to add a models file here. We're going to add a forms file here. So there'll be lots of files to mess with. And it can be a little confusing. When you get the hang of it, as I said, which took me a long time, so if you have trouble, don't feel bad. It's not so bad. But you have to realize that everything's happening in a distinct place. And that's good, even though it's confusing at first, because it means that if something's going wrong, you know right where to look, right? Because it's all separated out. All right, so I'm going to save everything. Go ahead. Question? The what?
URL has tech app.
This one?
Yeah.
All I added was import path. So as every view that we create is going to have a path, and the path will say what the view is. It'll say what the HTML. Actually, it'll just say what the path is and what the the name of it is. In the view, we'll say what the HTML file is that relates to it. So if you save this all, and again, the idea is to do it all with the Python. Then you can go back to the not this one. I want to go back to my new one, Tech Review 2. Just do that. And you could upload, basically at the end of each session when you do things, you can just upload your files. So I will go Django projects. Tech Review 2. Actually, yeah, it's still named Tech Review 2 there. Okay. And it will only copy what's changed generally. And it'll note what's changed. So if I commit I'll call it, So what I will do next time, the first hour will just be helping everyone catch up. If you figure it out on your own before then, great. But the first hour will be just to help people catch up. If you are already with me all the way to this, you can come or not come. We won't do new stuff until 11. So if you need to sleep in a little, if you're ready. But if you're not, if you need help, come. Yeah.
Problem might break. So I have no idea. Cool.
So PostgreSQL second PG2. What is it not like about it? I think it's because there's a
It was Tech Review 2. Yep. Oh, no, go back up one. I'm sorry. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Just drag that back down. Yes, so that we'll have all the updated files from the multiple folders inside. Yeah. Yeah, so go ahead and just drag the whole folder down and you'll be good. I mean, you'll have to do the commit stuff as well, but
Really only changed.
Is it?
and then you can submit the assignment 2 days early.
I'm doing that because it's saying that that's empty and it doesn't like that.
Well, yeah, well, no, you can't see differences. I mean, technically, at the end of the day, it is a text-ish file, but it'll have to zero to one.
So what I did is I moved,
And
created a
we do
URL.
actually have but it's just 0 to 1.
A new file. It's called URLs pi.
I wasn't able to find you to send a link to it through Canvas.
I'm in your, that's weird, I'm in
The only thing I copied into there is plain.
Yeah, I'm in your web.
Yeah, I checked that one as well, and you weren't in that one either. Unless to be honest, unless I'm getting your name wrong or something.
It's AARLS.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah, I didn't see it, so I could just show you the link real quick.
Yeah, you have to save that.
So, do you have a recording possibly?
I have a recording. And I did a thing last time to set up. Now, are you going to set it up on Windows?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's a little bit easier on Windows.
Want to get there.
And I'm hoping to make a video of that tomorrow. So you want to download Postgres and PG. And those are just
Because, I don't think I've seen Postgres.
You have Django. Yeah.
Yeah. He needs to.
Oh, so Ubuntu is the you don't need that. You can set it all up. Some of those files. Yeah, anyway, some of the some of them have a installed. Okay. But if you've already set up Django.
Can you bring up the canvas real quick?
I found, yeah, I was blind clearly, so I just sent you the link to it. I'm just now starting a Castlevania game.
Yeah, are you guys done with your,
No, I'm the only one who's even like submitted anything for it so far.
I did send a note to Steve, I'd like to get an extension to Thursday, because it seems, I know we're missing last Tuesday because it's this holiday.
Yeah.
But it seems a little rushed. I would like to have it do on Thursday night, because I at least need 7 days.
That's probably the
Seems rushed.
safest. Yeah,
I'm not being, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but hey, I was prompted to, because he's taking web apps, we're taking web apps. I'm taking web apps too with his wife.
Yeah.
So they're attaching, right? I'm like, and same thing, guys, this has got to stop.
They like to speed through things a lot and give a lot of structure to their classes.
No, but you can't do it after the fact. Like,
Yeah.
she told us, I was online on Friday night and said, hey, this stuff's not released. And then she, in Saturday morning, when everyone's, gone, doing okay. Oh, we're having a webinar later on at 3. And I'm like, then it's like 2 last night. I'm like, no, that's not gonna fly. Either you change it or B, there's advance and there's not right. And Bill said, that's how they work. No, it's not. No, it's not. In real life, they do. Every time they get here, we can go down that rabbit because I'm on scholarship, I drop it. That goes to
inside of that. So you have one more patch. Because if you apply
you are the one I was talking to about.
outside of
How can you start thinking with me? How it can.
Yeah, when it comes to classes, I try first of all,
I cannot read.
is take Steve Python and take web operator 1 with Stomp, take JavaScript 1 if you don't have to write with Stomp. Take the first PHP with Stomp. Because when you start diverging with like Bill and Sarah, like 1 and 2, Sarah, I was thinking web apps 2, 3, Bill. God forbid advanced JavaScript. Yeah, Stein's a good buffer to like interfere. Like first start with Steve, it's like, then you get Stein, then it's like now you're going.
Yeah, they do that so fast.
It's fascinating being unrealistic.
Well, here's hoping. I mean, I know that like on Thursday there's a ton of different assignments. I've gotten most of them done already, but I still have to do the lynda.com video stuff.
And I can only go, you and 2x.
Yeah.
I was so I need to change it from without the.
is it not named the same?
I like even only thing that
I don't know. And so I thought I had separated out the database on both sides. I thought I had a copy and I erased the database. Yeah, and then I looked it up to get it out, and I way to get it back, and I did.
Wait, as in the stuff from 2000.
Yeah.
You don't need any of them.
I've sworn this like multiple times that we're gonna build off of three.
I think he meant in like a learning sense. Yeah, because I should have asked him if I needed anything from that. He's like, no, no, because all you have to do is what it is. Yeah. They're doing like well, so the thing is, they are going to be offering it again over the summer. And I'm not sure when they're offering it again. Yeah. Like I know that they're offering it. Yeah. So. No, the drawing is like not bringing it out. I know.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's intentional. I think they're scatterbrained too. I mean, Sarah is a director down in South Seattle. So, they're always giving stuff like that. Like, dude, you can't have a webinar on a Saturday when you didn't, and you tell people that morning.
Yeah, I would not.
And then something from that is due on Sunday night, a day later. That's the bosh. So,
yeah, there's no way I'd catch that because I work.
I sent her a full 5 light items and then work. It's like, so I drop it or this ain't gonna fly. I think they're just, I don't think it's,
They'll probably figure out if they're going to move. Because I've seen both of them be like, oh, wait a moment, I'm going to give an extension on this because this actually is not enough time. So.
But for my OCD, it just drives me nuts. Steve's easy to go as he is. He's very structured organized. Sky, I mean, she's a machine. So.
Yeah. I like plastics. She's good.
I don't like pictures.
Although it's taken me a while to get used to it. Oh man, I had a web authoring and there was like some assignment where we'd actually take notes and talk about what we liked or about like HTML or CSS, and I just came up to the front of the room and started trashing CSS because I hate it so much. I hate CSS. It is so unorganized.
So what I think it is, I assume you like doing the back end stuff like this.
I do the back end, but like it's fun to mess with UI and to like make a web page, but CSS itself is just, if you're gonna get anything done the right way, you have to build it on hacks and tricks.
Well, I like it during the advanced JavaScript class. So, you do stuff, and Brendan would go, I thought I was wrong. He goes, you went out of your way to make a curious new font. I said, wow. Like, good day or bad day? He goes, maybe you but to get that response from Brendan, makes you say that.
You would know.
All right.
Yes, very glad you that.
That's okay, man. Check out Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday. On the second floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said GameWorks, right? Yeah, we played Fortnite, they got other things.
Where you go next?
I wish I had Realm of Magic. Realm of Magic is so easy to.
No, this is so.
That's PC only, isn't it? Yeah. Well, it's PC, but you're
Just try to use.
and I try to talk to those guys.
Did you go to the setting, right?
No,
Did you set it?
Years, like since we faced.
no, that's not.
Not still going strong.
Alright, see ya.
That's it.
Oh.
Yeah, see, she's got something really. It's the database isn't populated.
Oh my God.
How
So
it
hard.
go from this?
I'll be over there in 1 second.
Okay.
What is the problem?
What we changed just now, the problem is.
Oh, no, I'm just stretching here.
Why not we put in, try to get that mindset to the right place.
So I think you might have to do URL patterns equal.
What's that?
So that's where we're gonna put our URL patterns. It just doesn't like this. It's empty.
I saw it already. It's not me. It's better. I would have stopped technically. As soon as I get home, wake up. The neighbor. There's sewer water. Yeah. We have a right away. But they're free in the house.
So.
But I know I can't change it. How do you know you're in that? Figure it out.
Yeah.
That's true. That's pretty cool. Do you like it?
Well, I don't know enough about it.
Okay, so far.
So far.
Yeah.
I guess.
All right.
Right. So you're doing the study group is today, only today.
We're not going to read more, but right now it's got about this.
Yeah, it's easier to study with somebody. It happens. once you get something that, stop. If you have to work with somebody, it's like, okay, let's try this, try that. It's like only that. But it's open, right? It's open. And you, the college made so that, right? That, that's how that runs. So you got routers, maybe what's called, honey. Honey. But this is a local area, right? So we don't have access to it. Yeah, that's the numbers. That's it, right here. That's 6-4. For some reason, that's so cute. So. Thank you. It's right there. You just open it.
Well, I think, let me look at it later. I think if you close it out and try it again, maybe. Okay, sorry it took so long. How are you two doing?
Yeah. Okay, close out. What is it? Shut down.
Yeah, close out.
Okay, so I.
So try everything over.
Yeah, but I have to do in this room, right? Yeah. Because this is still not work yet.
So,
I would like to
if I want to get start again, how I do, I have to start from the video.
Just yeah, I will follow this video and then do it again.
For the first one,
Harder than I thought.
yes.
Yeah, I just had to watch the video.
Because I have to do in this room.
Yeah, me too. I will come.
Yeah.
I want to stay here for a whole long time. Oh. Bye. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, that's what it should be. Yeah, that one. I'm glad I could fix that. I tried that on others and couldn't succeed.
See, then how can I do it?
I've got it.
The way I do, how to do it. If I bring your code, if we bring your code to
Well,
all,
so let's.
do your code all, and then I don't know when you start.
Why are these files not being able to be found? Have you been deleting files?
No, he moved my file. I show you this.
Uh,
Here, before my tag review is under my tag review tool is under Python chapter. He tried to move out because he said not available.
That may be part of the problem.
Yeah, because he moved out for the folder Python club because it's not the same with class read, and then he moved my text review tool out from the Python.
I think it's moving, but it's causing problems. So I don't want to do this right now, but one of the things we could do, and it won't take very long. See, none of these files are there. So
You can use.
So what I'm going to do, I don't know that I have time to do this right now, but we can do this next. I would basically,
Yeah, before that is.
I think I would wipe out this whole folder and reload it.
Yeah. I think you could.
Have it in here. So what we'll do, we still will have to, so we need to do.
Ask you a question. Are you able to log into SEC or are you using vSign?
So those are all set up.
And is SEC showing up on
Shows
the?
up on SEC last.
I can't even, it's not even showing up on SEC. Okay.
Go to here.
Then you want to go to the
Let's see here.
you have to go to street.
So,
You have to
I copied the wrong one.
yes.
Did you do this?
Before,
Yeah.
before,
I got it. Yeah.
Oh, no, actually, it's fine. I'm loading up. I'm building up. Yeah, because he didn't do, so, he gave us like a package, kind of like last year. Yeah.
You need to take a break.
Yeah, I got it, 2 minutes. One other thing, are you around tomorrow afternoon? Or Friday, office hours tomorrow afternoon, you can sit down and walk. I'm not sure. I mean, the folder that you have. Okay. So is Django there? I don't think it's there though. I mean, I think those things are there.
Yeah.
So I think.
You like this class so far?
Yeah,
with Postgres, you and I got, I don't know, we have to redo it because we did it on, we did it with SQL, with,
See, from here,
with,
I have
Microsoft.
to,
What?
I have to do more from here.
Well, that's actually everything that we did
Mhm.
in class. I need to get out of this. And so all you have to do is post it because that's everything. And the video is going to be horrific.